Today on Grantham, the 40 Smith & Wesson, the 40 Auto, the 10mm short and weak. Today we're going to be discussing, we're going to be talking about, and more importantly, we're going to be ballistically testing the 40 Smith & Wesson. Now, if you're not familiar with the 40 Smith & Wesson, it came about because of the FBI, the feds. Essentially, they realized that their 9mm just weren't cutting it. They wanted a more powerful cartridge, so they came about with the 10mm. However, the 10mm was a little bit too snappy, a little bit too powerful for those weak federal wrists. So they compromised and they took a 10mm and they used less powder, and essentially, because of that, they realized that they could shorten the case, and they came about with the 40 Smith & Wesson. The 40 Smith & Wesson used heavily within law enforcement, and of course, a problem solver within the inner cities. John, do you want to show the difference between the 40mm and the 40 Smith & Wesson and the 9mm? So you can see right here, John has constant shakes, all he drinks is Monster. So we have the 40 Smith & Wesson, and we have the 9. The 40 is essentially a 10mm compared to a 9mm, and we have a 180 grain projectile versus a 124 grain projectile. Now the 40 is obviously delivering a larger round at just a little bit slower than the 9mm, and recently we've seen a lot of agencies move away from the 40 to the 9mm. So the question is that because the 40 is a terrible caliber ballistically, does, as a lot of proponents say, the 9mm now match the ballistics of 40 due to advances in projectile technology? Today we find that all out. We're going to be using our ballistics gelatin right here, and more importantly, beyond the ballistics gelatin, we have a phantom camera that can do up to 1 million frames a second. We'll be primarily filming at about, 76,000 today?
Yeah, that sounds all right.
Enough to see the projectile in flight, moving through the air. This is a huge upgrade for us, a 6-figure camera at minimum. We're very excited to be able to use this. Today on Grantham, we're going to be fully delving into the 40 Smith & Wesson. Are you excited, John?
Yeah, absolutely.
You smiled. So, right here, I'm Michael Jones. I'm a former Air Force Special Warfare guy. We have John. John, what's your background?
I was in the Army for about 7 years. That's about it.
You're a Ranger. Why do we have to do this every time? He's a Ranger regiment, and on top of that, me and John have a lot of shooting experience, and we're going to be using all that experience plus a lot of science. Funny enough, I have my degree in biology and went to med school but quit, which makes me nothing except for a doctor in Haiti, but that still counts. John's going to take a quick moment to talk a little bit about the 40 right here.
So 9mm on the right, a lot of people know about it. 40 Smith & Wesson on the left. So generally speaking, you'll get about 40 to 50% more bullet weight versus the 9mm. But there's no free lunch. You know, there's always pros and cons. Generally speaking, what you're looking at right off the bat is a little bit less capacity, usually about 2 to 3 rounds less than similar 9mm counterparts. Also is energy, which, you know, Newton's laws of motions, that energy going out the barrel, it's also coming straight back into your wrist.
Look at that, John. That's pretty smart for the Army.
Yeah. So what that leads to is more recoil. Generally speaking, 40 Smith & Wesson guns are known for being very snappy, and you do get that extra firepower on target, but the question is the juice worth the squeeze?
So right here, we're going to be comparing two pretty much exact same guns right here. We have a Glock 19, which is the 9mm counterpart, and the Glock 23, which is the 40 Smith & Wesson counterpart. Now, this is a Gen 3 versus Gen 2. Barrel lengths are the same. We're not going to get a difference in terms of one having like more velocity due to barrel length. It's all as they come. The Glock 23 is a well-known handgun, was issued pretty widely within federal agencies, so this is a very fair test. Now, me personally, I don't carry 40 Smith & Wesson. Very interested to find out, using science, technology, very fast camera, what we get. But before we get into that, we of course have to thank the biggest sponsor of the channel. The biggest sponsor of the channel is Primary Arms. If you're looking for optics at a great price, if you're looking for anything, they've got it, literally all of it. So go and check them out. Give them a lot of love. It is now January, which means it's Laffy Taffy January, so give them an email, say I'd like some Laffy Taffy. They're probably not going to give you any, and they're probably going to drop us as a sponsor. And of course, if you're looking to buy night vision, if you're looking to rent night vision network, the only M word that we can say, go in there, check them out, visualize your friends in high fidelity with thermal or night vision. Of course, if you want to become a better shooter, we recommend dry fire. Mantis will turn your weapon into a dry fire machine. Go and check them out. Give them all love. Ammunition today is sponsored by AAC. A big thank you to them. And of course, a big thank you to our local gun shop, Stockpile Defense. for always helping us out. Let's go ahead, let's get into it because these cameras cost a lot and we got to make our money back somehow. First thing we're going to do is going to be a recoil test. What is the recoil difference between 40 and 9? Me and John will both be shooting, pretty trained pistol shooters. So we'll start with 40. We are firing a 180 grain HST from Federal. This is a common defensive ammo, not plus B, but very commonly used within many federal agencies and been used real world. So we'll go ahead and start with 2 rounds here. Not too bad. I can definitely feel the snap compared to 9mm. Let me go ahead and try the 9mm. 9mm, we're using 124 grain, also Federal HST, so the equivalent round, but in 9mm. Much easier to control. That is significant. John, you want to go ahead and try out the 40?
Yes, sir. Yeah, right off the bat, I can just tell this is jumping more than it.
You can feel it for sure.
Yeah, much easier follow-up shots. It doesn't jump nearly as much.
You can definitely feel the recoil difference. We'll go ahead, we'll show those to you guys in high speed right now. So as you can see, more recoil, not a significant amount, but you can definitely feel it. Follow-up shots are significantly easier than 9mm. Now, as the great Paul Harrell said, when the FBI, when they were stepping down to a less powerful round, the big consideration was that the accuracy from these more powerful rounds like 10mm or even 40 was less than lighter recoiling rounds. Now, this is not due to the fact that a heavily recoiling round like the 10mm or the 40 compared to the 9 are less accurate or that the recoil is affecting where the shot goes. This is actually anticipation and training. So from our high speed, which we'll show you right now, the bullet leaves the barrel far before the recoil actually hits you. What occurs is in less trained shooters with a heavier recoil, they have a tendency to overcompensate and begin to drive their hand down. This is called a flinch. This causes them to not make accurate shots with those larger calibers. So I would definitely agree with Paul Harrell on that it wasn't that they were less accurate inherently in any way. It was simply a training issue. With all that being said, let's get into the fun parts. We're going to test ballistics gelatin with our common defensive rounds. Then we'll go to the ballistic dummy. So we're now going to be testing our common defensive rounds. Once we find the one that performs best, we'll be testing that on the ballistic dummy. So to start off, let's talk about the different rounds we're going to be using. The first proven performer that we're going to be using is going to be a Federal HST. These are very common rounds within law enforcement. It's a 180 grain and it's a hollow point, as you can see here. What that means is as it enters the flesh, it's going to flower out, make that nice death blossom, provide a lot of damage. Next up is going to be the Spear Gold Dot. This is something that I carried for a very long time. John, you carry these also, don't you? So Spear Gold Dots are another hollow point, a slightly different design, but also a proven performer. Finally, we'll be using some of our favorite here on the channel, which is going to be a G9 external hollow point. This is very cool technology. This is mostly what me and the team carry nowadays because it's performed so well with a variety of ammo. So right here at the Federal and the Spear Gold Dot, they have 180 grain for 40 cal. That's pretty common. Now, with G9, whether it be 40 or 9, they use a lighter bullet going much faster. So this external hollow point is 95 grains, traveling 1,520 feet per second. This is compared to the 1,100-ish that you're seeing from the 180 grain 40 Smith & Wesson rounds, such as Federal and Spear Gold Dot. So we understand that both the Spear and the Federal might be similar in performance and that there are probably rounds out there that are pushing plus B categories that can offer different performance. But from what we've seen typically that are used professionally is the Spear and the Federal. These are typical defensive rounds used. Obviously, if you use a plus P plus, you're going to get different performance. We're trying to show you what's typical performance of the 40 Smith & Wesson. We also have the counterparts to that in 9mm to show the difference in ballistic performance. With all that being said, talk is very cheap, ammo is expensive. Let's start off with Federal HST. History, great works of literature, the meaning behind the U.S. Constitution. Did you study these things in school? Well, probably not to the extent that you should have. Now, this video is brought to you by Hillsdale College. Now, Hillsdale College is offering over 40 free online courses from the works of C.S. Lewis to the Book of Genesis to the U.S. Constitution, absolutely free at hillsdale.edu/Garand. Time changes, but great facts about life do not. Take this time, make a New Year's resolution to study some of these very important facets of life and increase the amount of knowledge that you have. Now, personally, I am, of course, studying the rise and fall of the Roman Republic because there's nothing more that I love about history. Anything from the ancient tenets that made the Republic so successful, as well as the tyranny that led to the downfall of the Roman Republic. I, like many other guys, I'm obsessed with the Roman Republic. So I've been really enjoying the course. So go right now to hillsdale.edu/Garand. It is completely free, no cost to you. Go learn something. Thank you so much. Let's get back to excellent slow motion footage. Okay, Federal HST 180 grain 40 Smith & Wesson first jailbox test. All right, Christian.
3, 2, 1, action!
All right, don't worry about the noise coming out of the camera, but we have our first test done. Excellent performance from the HST, very proven, over 12 inches of penetration, and excellent temporary cavity, which is that first cavity you saw as it opened up, and then we have a great permanent cavity, that nice 10 millimeter hole /40. So it's looking quite good. Let's go ahead, let's compare that directly with the 9 millimeter HST. Now we are shooting at 3 yards. This is a typical engagement distance that the FBI is noted for a handgun. This is this is pretty real, true to life. What do you think about that, John?
Yeah, that's pretty reasonable.
Thank you for your commentary, John. Very helpful.
3, 2, 1, action!
Now, this is the 40 HST that we cut out. You can see how beautiful those pedals are. That is excellent performance. You can see how sharp that is. That's just going to be shredding through all the delicate tissues of the body, and it opens up to larger than what the typical diameter of that round is. So the 40 S&W performance, excellent. Let's go ahead and check the 9. So pretty similar performance between both the 40 and the 9. Now, the 40 100% had an edge. There is better wound cavitation, better temporary cavity. However, the cost, as we've talked about, is snappier recoil, less rounds. So far in my mind, I would be preferring the 9 right now, but let's test the other rounds we have. What are your thoughts, John?
So college on the left and ready to settle down on the right. As you can see, 40 cal, it definitely did do a little bit better.
This is why we don't take it nice, by the way.
But generally speaking, I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. I would rather have a little bit less energy on target, but for much better capacity, less recoil, and almost the same terminal ballistics. Not quite, but almost.
All right, let's keep it going. Next up, 40 Gold Dot. Proven performer, proven killer. Let's see how it does. So right here, we have the HST. Right here, we have the Gold Dot. Now, as you can see, the Gold Dot performed extremely well. Great expansion, great temporary cavity. But certainly, the HST had better overall expansion on its flower petals, and I would say performed a little bit better. That being said, the Gold Dot is still a proven performer and had great penetration, just like the HST. I would say this is roughly the same performance between the two. So, great performance. Let's go ahead. Let's check G9 40 versus 9 mil. Okay, so right here we have the G9 external hollow point, 95 grains, traveling over 1,500 feet per second. The recoil on this actually feels pretty stout because it's hauling. It's what would you call it, John? Pain train?
It's the thermodynamic bag chaser.
There we have it. G9 40 Auto, excellent expansion, excellent cavity. A little bit less of a permanent cavity compared to the HST and Gold Dot, but excellent penetration, went straight through. We had a box right there to try to catch the round, or John's trying to, but that, she gone. We don't know where she went. That's excellent. Let's see how the 9mm compares. G9 has always been a proven performer for us, so great to see its performance. All right, we have external hollow point, G9 ammo, excellent performer. This is what I carry personally. Let's see how it does in comparison to the 40 Smith & Wesson.
2, 1, action!
Quick comparison right here. Now with the 40, the G9 had a little bit more recoil than the other defensive rounds, but on 9mm, its recoil is pretty insignificant compared to its normal defensive loading. So we have 3 rounds of HST, which is 124 grain. On the G9, we have 77 grains going about 1,500 plus feet per second. So first 3, Federal HST. Okay, now we have G9. Significantly less recoil. Despite that, if we come over here, we could see that our performance, the 9mm G9, was excellent. The 40 did perform better, however, it wasn't by a very significant margin at all. Very impressive performance from 9mm, and you can see why a lot of agencies are ending up switching to the 9mm. Now, before we kind of give our final thoughts, we're gonna do a few shots on our ballistic dummy right here. So what we're gonna be doing is the ballistic dummy has bone, it has organ tissue, it does a good job of approximating what a human body would be like. It's not perfect, human body will stop a lot more. However, we can see some of those wind tracks as it goes through bone. So let's do a few shots here with our best performer, which I would argue is likely the Federal HST in 40. John, would you tend to agree?
Yeah, but I don't know if it's worth it, to be honest.
We'll do a few G9 as well. All right, let's get the test going. First shot's gonna be in the gut. You see that 40 hole in there? That is pretty gorgeous.
It's nasty.
Oh! Exited out just to the side of the spine. That would suck. That's definitely doing quite a bit of damage there. We can see it shattered the rib right there and the rib above it. You can feel it right there. Looks like we have a fracture down there, so that temporary cavity looks like it fractured the rib right there at the lower end of the thoracic cavity. And that would really suck. I mean, just to the right would have hit the spinal cord, which is what, John?
It's blowing your back out.
Upper thoracic cavity. Let's get it done. HSC 40 cal. Look at that flowering right there. Do you see that?
Yeah.
That is super great immediate expansion.
Shattered that rib.
Yeah. We have the sternum shattered, the rib shattered. It looks like we have a fracture on the lower rib right here. That is bad. So this is traveling fairly close to the heart. Shot through the heart. Did not exit, got lodged in the spine. You can see it shattered the spine right here. You can see where that round impacted. This is a great way for life overall to cease on the human being. Great performance. We have G9 40 firing through the upper thoracic cavity. We're gonna see what the exit looks like. Okay, let's take a look here. So first off, that was insane expansion from the G9. It always impresses me how well it does. Shattered both ribs, like that rib is completely obliterated even compared to the HST. Look at the exit here. Shattered the back spine coming through. We can see the nice clean exit right there. Let's see what that looks like on the high speed. That brings us to the end of our test on the 40. Very interesting. You know, I really thought that the 40 would significantly outperform the 9mm. I really did. But in practice, we really did not see that. Its performance was good and certainly better than 9mm, but I don't think it warrants the reduction in capacity that you get or the increase in, muzzle control that you get compared to 9mm. Now, I know people are going to hop out and be like, well, why don't you, just, get stronger? Well, I mean, I deadlift a solid 415 and bench a solid 300. So, I mean, I'm feeling pretty strong. And in addition to that, I do carry a 10mm quite a bit. It's just, if I have my choice, if I'm, what I'm going to carry most of the time, it's 100% going to be 9mm. Now, I understand that people are very attached to their 40s. So why don't you get in the comments and explain why you stick to the 40 versus 9mm. I would say from the demonstration and all the footage that we have so far that the performance is quite similar. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter which one you choose. What matters is if you train with it. Choose a round you can control the best, that you can afford the most of, and that you could shoot the most. If you're not shooting, it's not gonna matter. Make sure you get out there, you get training. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We got tons of great things coming. John is starting to smile more, which means his, got like a new lease on life, John?
Not really.
Okay, well, we're working on it. All right, guys, take care. Great things coming. Oh, final thing for you guys, going to be fatherly advice. You know what? If there's one thing I can say, tell your kids you're proud of them. You know what? I know it's always great to hear from your parents, and guaranteed they'd love to hear it from you.